So leveraging talent networks for optimized recruiting is the subject. And my name is Ian Alexander. I'm here with Stephen Schwander, who is the Director of Talent Solutions for Telemetry. And we're also joined by Susanna Gilbert, who is Telemetry's Marketing Manager. She's going to take questions as they come in, and then we're going to feed them back to Stephen and I as we talk. So, Stephen, you're joining us from where today?
I am in St. Louis.
Okay, great. So Stephen's in St. Louis. I'm out in the San Francisco Bay Area, and want to say good morning or good afternoon to you wherever you're joining us from. So up front, I want to talk a little bit about housekeeping. Um, we will be making these slides available uh, after the presentation. So within 24 hours after the presentation, you'll get a follow-up email that'll have the slides for you, and it'll also have a little bonus that we're throwing in, which is a talent network solution snapshot report, which we've put together, which covers a lot of the material that's in here that you can use for reference or you can share. So talk a little bit about the agenda that we have. We're going to talk about what are talent networks, so we're all talking about the same thing. Talk about some of the challenges that recruiting organizations face and what we see when we engage with our clients and with prospective clients in the industry. And then how those challenges translate into reasons for implementing a talent network strategy. And then finally, the real meat of the presentation, which is the key practices that we see for success, whether you're implementing a new talent network or whether you have one, and and you're looking to sort of optimize it. And then finally, QA at the end. If you want to ask questions, on the right side of your screen, you should have a webinar console where you can type in questions. We'll take those as they come. And we'll try and inject them into the discussion. But if we don't get to it, we'll get to it at the end at the Q&A. So what is a talent network? Talent networks, so we've seen them, the button on the screen on the career sites. And of course, if you can't find the job you're looking for, please opt into our talent network. At a high level, talent networks are an easy way for you to engage your candidates and increase the efficiency of your recruiting efforts. All right, so that's the tip of the iceberg. But as we sort of peel it back a little bit beyond the button, comes down to a quick and easy way for candidates to opt in and start to engage with you. It's a way for them to raise their hand and say, I'm interested in your company. You may not have a job for me, or maybe I'm not even that motivated right now to engage you at a full level to go through an application process, but I'm interested. It's a way to centralize a pool of candidates outside your ATS who maybe have not applied, and really begin to market to that pool of candidates. Because of all those things I've talked about in the first two bullets, it's a great way to capture passive candidates who really aren't ready to jump into a full application. Should be an engagement engine. It should facilitate everything that you can do to engage with those candidates via email, via content strategy, keep them warm, notify them of jobs, and let them know that you are interested in their skills. And then at the end of the day, it all comes down to it's got to be a source for future hiring. If you're not hiring out of your talent network, talent pool, then you need to maybe implement some new strategies. So, Stephen, you've been in this business a long time, many years. I won't say how many, but enough. So talk about the challenges that you've seen out there that really kind of push companies into implementing a talent network strategy.
Ian, I thought you were going to say that I started with talent networks when they were postcards, right? Uh, so, yeah, just to talk a little bit of some of the challenges that talent networks help us to face, and I appreciate the definition of talent network being relatively high level because, as as you all sit through some best practice seminars and see what's happening in some of the some of the leaders, talent networks are being used by some of the best recruiting departments in very, very, very different ways. And sometimes we see the really difficult, complex, let's say resource heavy ways to use it, and think, well, you know what, that's just way too much for us. So we try to keep the definition of talent network relatively high level so that you can drive value out of talent network, regardless of how deep you're able to go with your resources. So some of the basic recruiting challenges that we want to help you address with talent networks is, of course, first and foremost, not enough of the right candidates. And of course, if you're waiting till the time that a job is open and posted and people are starting to actively apply, that's often too late to be finding the right candidate. So by engaging early, it helps you not to miss out on some of the best candidates who may be interested in your organization. It certainly helps the time to fill issue. So particularly as things are more getting tighter again in the talent market, you want to, if you wait until after a job becomes available to seek the new candidates, you're sort of all ramping up from zero again. So a talent network is a way for you to at least ramp up from, say, 30 miles an hour to 60 miles an hour as opposed to zero. It helps that time to fill issue. Also scalability. Again, just popping job postings out there and waiting for people to apply isn't really a great way to scale your recruiting efforts, particularly when you're targeting difficult and niche pipelines of candidates. And then the other thing is candidate disappointment, right? So candidates expect somewhat of a consumer experience. Maybe I don't see what I'm looking for now or the price I want to buy it at, but I want to be kept available, and knowledgeable at what's happening in the market. I want to keep a relationship open to this brand, even if I'm not purchasing now. So it helps meet some of those candidate expectations as well.
Okay, with that, I wanted to throw a poll up just to understand of our people watching today, how many people are implementing or already have a talent network? So good, I see people jumping right on that. So that's fantastic. Going to give it just a little bit more time, and we'll show you what the results are here in just a moment. Okay, I'm going to close the poll here. Looks like we got just about everybody voted. So closing the poll, and with 84% of people voted, 47% people do have a talent network and 53% don't. So it's pretty much a 50-50 split there. So that's great to know.
And again, Ian, let me just jump in there too. We can't do this on a poll, but again, just pointing out the fact that what is a talent network, and so as I look out in the marketplace, I'm seeing everything from here's what we used to call job alerts, being considered talent networks today, all the way down to a more complex, say, talent community where they're capturing, two-way conversations, et cetera. So we have a pretty wide berth in terms of, what a talent network looks like in the marketplace as well. So, if we had tons of time, it'd be fun to really, break those numbers down.
Yeah. So, and we talk about the talent network solution based on the challenges that you talked about, Stephen. We're really looking at this is something that you can put in place that's going to increase your conversion rate. So from the people who visit your website or your career site to the people that you're ultimately able to engage. If you have a talent network in place, you're going to increase those conversion rates. So you're going to get more people that you can market your jobs to. Again, becomes a great source of passive candidates. It forms that pool to meet future demand, as Stephen was talking about, in terms of going from 30 to 60 much more quickly. Again, it should give you the tools to be able to engage them and sort of keep them warm, in air quotes there, so that you're able to sort of market your company to them. And if you're getting higher conversion rates, and if you're able to engage more candidates to source from, you're going to reduce your recruiting costs. And it all adds up to something that you can scale up. And if you implement some of the key practices, you'll see where that scalability will come in here in just a couple slides. So I like this next slide. It's a little bit complicated, and again, you guys are going to get the slides, but it puts talent networks within the context of the overall recruiting mix. Okay, so what you're seeing here is Telemetry's recruitment marketing capability maturity model, and it's a mouthful, but it really takes sort of a look at of all the companies that we engage with and our research within the industry. This is kind of everybody kind of falls within these four buckets. And as we start at the left, a basic capability and limited reach. This is sort of the basic level one capability. Most, if not all of us in this presentation are beyond this, but we break it down into inbound attraction, outbound sourcing, engagement and nurturing, and then conversion and candidate experience. So if you're at a level one, you're looking at sort of manual posting to job boards one at a time. You can do some maybe basic database searching of separate job databases, and you may have a basic ATS in place. Engagement and nurturing of candidates is kind of limited to maybe an auto response when someone applies for a job. And then from a candidate experience standpoint, you may have a basic career site and basic web apply process. Okay, so that's where most of us aren't. The next level is sort of functional. You're starting to put some basic efficiencies in place to improve this. So from an attraction standpoint, you've automated your job posting. You maybe centralized that posting of jobs, so you're doing a one-to-many approach. They're centralizing your database searching for your sourcing. Recruiters are reaching out to candidates through one-to-one email campaigns. You might have more job-specific apply processes. The career site is now owned by recruiting or HR. Starting to look at some site-level search optimization techniques to get your company up higher in job searches. So that's sort of basic. And really, most of the companies we engage with are between level 2 and level 3 here, between the functional and the modern. And where you see this level 3 is where Talent Networks comes in. So with level 3, you're starting to do more digital advertising. It's the whole level is characterized by a more targeted sort of multi-channel approach to recruiting and to marketing your jobs. So that's digital advertising via pay-per-click and social. You've got some referral programs in place. In terms of sourcing, you're using that talent network as a sourcing tool. So you're engaging with potential candidates, getting them into your talent network, and you're using it as a sourcing resource. Creating job talent pipelines for future need, so you can pipeline that talent against both current positions as well as future positions. You've got candidate relationship management capabilities in place. You're able to sort of campaign these candidates. You're distributing jobs to agencies in the same way that you're distributing them to job boards. Again, Talent Networks is in here twice because on the engagement and nurturing side, you're really taking advantage of that talent network to keep your potential candidates warm and market your company to them through a content strategy or just inviting them to apply for jobs. And finally, starting to sort of segment your career sites towards job families. So you might have military or college recruiting, or if you've got specific healthcare nursing positions that are very scarce, or engineering positions, you've sort of created branded career sites that are specialized to those people. Of course, your social and your mobile with your career sites, you're doing job level SEO, and you're beginning to really track the sources of all these things and optimizing based on that. And so without getting too deeply into this and spending too much time, the fourth stage is really you've got this multi-targeted, very complicated mix of ways that you're engaging candidates. So now you're optimizing your activities around the data that you get back from that. What are your conversion rates at each stage? What are your conversion rates from outreach to site visitor, then from site visit to applicant? That's the word I was looking for. And then from applicant to ultimately quality candidate, and from quality candidate to hire. And then you can use that data to really optimize your whole recruiting function. So those are sort of the 4 levels. And again, this will be in the deck that we send out to you. But you can see where talent networks are. We're really trying to move from a level 2 to a level 3 here with our basic capabilities. So keys to talent network success. This is sort of the meat of the presentation, so I want to get right into this. The first one, when you're implementing or refining your talent network, is you got to make them prevalent. And Stephen, you see this all the time. When we say prevalent, what are we talking about?
Well, I think it should be obvious that you can join a talent network, and you don't even have to use that language. By the way, I mean I've got clients who are saying register with us, right? Here are our options in the future, or whatever it is, however you message that. But it should be obvious and all over the place, so that I don't have to go looking for it. It's a suggestion that pops up. I know I want to join the talent network. I was at a local drugstore recently, and or even if you go to the grocery store, they're always asking you, do you have an awards card? Do you have an awards card? Drives me nuts. But if I wanted an awards card, I know I'm going to have an option every time we go to the cash register. It's the same thing here. I'm interested in this company. I want to drop my resume, and I want to have to come back and look for things, and here it is right there. So we've got clients that put it on their homepage, every landing page for their career site. They'll drop it onto drop a specific button onto a job page, so if people don't want to apply for the job, then maybe they'd rather join the talent network. Putting it at a link to it at the bottom of emails, for instance. So basically, just get it out there, make it obvious.
Good. Second key, make opt-in simple. There was an example of an opt-in here, and I guess I know that the challenge here, it's the same thing in marketing, is how little information can I get away with, because there's a direct relationship between how much information you're asking somebody to fill out and what your conversion rate is, how many people will ultimately give you that information. So what are some of the basic information that you would recommend, Stephen?
Well, I think I'm a little biased here. I'm not a real fan of just job alerts. I mean, those things have been out there for a decade and a half now, but it doesn't give me as a sourcer much information. I have your name and I know what jobs you're interested in. So I really like to be able to get as much data as possible, so that and I think we'll see some examples of this in terms of getting data into the system, maybe from a social profile or whatnot. But in terms of making opt-in simple, in this case, we know that depending upon what country you're operating in, there are going to be different data privacy requirements. Even in our own country, we want to make sure that people have opted into to receiving messages from us, but we don't want to make that real difficult to do. So, we want to be able to get them to say, yeah, I'll take some emails when they come, and message that in a really distinct way.
Yeah, and that brings us to the next one, which overcomes some of that form filling out data overload kinds of trade-offs. So it's leverage your existing information, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So this kind of goes in with the one prior, and I think we're showing a couple of different screenshots with, depending upon the tools you're using, can be configured together, right? But this is just showing, we all have data out there, and our data is really simple to get to, and if nothing else, we probably all have a LinkedIn profile. So if we can jumpstart the talent network process by using that LinkedIn profile, then great. It's right here. It's one click, and it pulls all of the data that I would want as a talent marketer into my system, because now I not only just have the name and where the person is from, but now I've got their entire career history, so I can really do some good segmentation and marketing. And then again, if you do have your resume or CV either on your desktop, or most of us aren't holding it on our mobile phone, but we can easily get to it via Dropbox or one of the other services. Again, getting to that data is very simple for candidates now if we give them the tools to upload them.
And especially if that tool, is able to take that data in a structured way so that you
Yep.
can report on it, et cetera. So good. Next key, segment your talent pool. So you got to get enough data, as Stephen, you were talking about, to be able to then put it to use. So let's talk about, Stephen, some of the data that you're going to want to get from people to then be able to segment your pool.
Boy, this is really a good timely slide because I got a phone call about an hour ago from from a large company that does a lot of proactive recruitment, asking if I wanted to join their company and sell stuff. And I thought, okay, that's kind of interesting. I wonder, why they think I want to sell stuff. And I won't say what, they asked me to sell. But it was clear to me that they had my data in there, and maybe it had been recently refreshed. But what was clear to me that they didn't have was, some of my desires. What am I looking to do? What would be a right fit for me? And so there's a balance here between, the slide prior and this slide. So we want to get as much data as quickly as possible, and so uploading a CV or using the social profile gives me that work history. But we also want to be able to give candidates the opportunity to say, these are the types of jobs I might be interested in. This is the type of location I might be interested in. We don't want to take a lot of data here because you want to make it as simple as possible, but I think people are willing to give just a little bit of data so that the emails and the engagement that they get, makes sense. So, even if it's nothing more than, here's my desired job category and here's where I'd like to work. Sometimes you might want to ask the level of job. Since I've been director of recruiting operations for Fortune 500 company in the past, and I often get emails asking if I want to be a Taleo admin. I'm tempted sometimes, but I'm not sure that it's the right level for me. So maybe some things like that just to help you segment your pools.
Stephen, they may know more about you than you think they know. The second one, keys to talent, or the next one, keys to talent success. Show candidates you care, and this kind of comes, right off of what we were just talking about. And I think there's an interesting aspect to this that we can kind of forget sometimes. I kind of come to this from traditional marketing, and a lot, if not all, of the principles of traditional marketing apply more and more to modern recruitment. So, there's a difference between going out and engaging with potential customers, and getting information from potential customers, and getting information and engaging with candidates, because there's a lot more on the line with the candidate. I may be very interested in buying a specific car. I may opt into getting information about that, etc. But I don't have a lot of emotional attachment to that. But when I look at your company and I'm from on the outside looking in, and I'm desire to work there, and I give you, pretty much my entire life history in terms of, my resume and what my wants and desires, and I'm putting myself out there. I'm basically asking you to dance. And so you want to show candidates that you do know who they are and that you do care about who they are, because really, if you just do baseline generic, you're losing. You're not making a good impression. You're not getting anywhere. In fact, you're beneath the line. So to get anywhere in terms of a meaningful engagement, you really have to really know that candidate, do a fair amount of personalization.
Yeah, I agree with that too, Ian. I think I also agree with, what is the messaging in this as well in terms of show candidates you care. How many of you get those emails that, right away, I mean, somewhere in the email you can see, do not reply to this email. Like, I'm sending you messaging, but I certainly don't want to hear back from you. And that's just, and I understand it. I understand what it's like to, run recruiting at a really large organization, and we can't be, but these messages have a big impact, and so how you create these messages, what you're saying when they first open up the the email, does it make sense from a data perspective? Number one, is it warm and inviting? Are you inviting a dialogue in some way? And are your follow-ups, do they really make sense? So I think it's yeah, I love it. Show candidates you care.
All right, don't double up. Obviously the talent networks are there, to make it easy to engage. Stephen, I know you've seen a lot out there where, not only they may be making it easy to engage, but they're just doubling the complexity of an apply process. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, you know what? We're probably in my pet peeve territory right now, Ian. And in my role as a solutions consultant, I really do apply to a lot of jobs. Now, I back off a lot of them because the job application processes themselves are so difficult. But one of my pet peeves is when I click apply for a job, the first thing that pops up is, hey, join our talent network first. I'm like, what? Come on. I'm trying to apply for this job here. Now you're trying to get me to do something else, and I'm having to do some double entry here because your talent network is not integrated with the rest of your platform, right? Either your ATS and the rest of your marketing platform. So I'm having to push data into two different places, and I think that's a difficult and an unfortunate candidate experience. Again, going back to making opt-in simple. If in your application process you just simply ask a quick question, hey, would you like to hear about other opportunities? Yes, boom. Now you've got their data, and if you have an integrated platform, you then should be able to take the data straight out of your ATS and pull it back into your talent marketing solution without having to ask for double entry from your candidates as well. So again, the better data integration is going to give a much better candidate experience.
Great. And the next one is Go Mobile. The whole point of talent networks is to engage candidates or potential candidates in the way that they want to engage. And I've got 30% of or more of your traffic is likely viewing your career site on a mobile device, but it's for some companies it's north of 50% by a good margin. So really, if you don't have a mobile way to engage with people, you're going to be missing out, and your talent network is not going to be as robust as it could be.
Yeah, I think that's totally true. I think it's a totally different conversation if we were talking about applying to jobs, and which I think needs to be mobile in most cases as well, but it can't always be because in some application processes there's just too much going on in those processes, and we can start arguing from a compliance perspective and a screening perspective that we need all of that stuff to go on. Well, Talent Network is a great antidote to that, because a talent network should be extremely easy to join, very mobile friendly, because I just need to use my social profile or upload my CV from Dropbox, etc., and make it really, really quick and easy. So I even have some clients where the application process, because they can't get the business to simplify the application process, they've started to put up talent networks just to drive the first level engagement, because they know they're not going to get through the entire, even though they might have a mobile process, it's just so difficult that they can't get candidates through there. So they're capturing more of those applicants at this point. And I think Ian talked about conversion early on. If you have a conversion difficulty into your application process, this is a really great way to capture candidates at a different point in the engagement, but at least you've got the information. And sometimes once you start that relationship, and they know that both the candidate and the hiring community has some skin in the game, they may be a little bit more willing to go through a more difficult application process as well. So going mobile is extremely important. If all you're trying to do is build a talent pipeline, it's even more important if you're trying to overcome a difficult application process and still capture really great candidates.
Yeah, and conversion is everything, and I don't want to sort of overstate an obvious point, but in the marketing side of things, if you're spending $1 million to drive potential applicants to your jobs, and you've got a 1% conversion rate, and you can change that to a 1.5 or a 2% conversion rate, well, you've just cut your cost per candidate in half. So these are big leverage points, and companies that the 52% of you that do have talent networks, I mean, that is one of the biggest reasons, is to really optimize your costs in this. And a lot of what we're talking about now is A, to increase those in conversion rates, and then B, to be implementing these networks in a way that you're going to turn those conversions into hires. Those are the two big leverage points. But I have a quick poll because I'm curious. How many people have responsive mobile career sites and application processes? So you're going to be able to view all your career site pages on a mobile device in an easy way. You're going to be able to go through the application process. as well in a mobile friendly way. And if you don't worry. There's a large portion of companies out there, probably 50% or more, that don't. So, and it's completely anonymous. So good. Gonna give it just another second or two. Looks like things are slowing down. And we're going to close that. And we've got 7% that are fully mobile engaged, 41% that are partially, and 50% that are just not mobile friendly. So good information for us to have, and you can kind of benchmark yourself against other similar companies out there. So moving on, be proactive. Stephen, this is all about what we talked about before, is getting out in front and not being reactive to requisitions or demand. So talk a little bit about being proactive.
Yeah, I think we've probably hit on it a couple of times, but I think in terms of saying, okay, I want to put in talent networks. How am I going to organize them, and what kind of messaging am I going to put around? Do I have one big talent network, and then my recruiter's going to have to go in and do some searching and segmentation and be more actively proactive, or do I set up 4 or 5 different talent networks that maybe are already segmented by, let's say, job category or location, region, call center, that sort of thing. So really, understanding that it doesn't have to be one big bucket, but I can be a little bit more strategic about it. And then, the other thing is to take a look at, what kind of automated processes, we've all worked with recruiters who, want the most qualified, really interested candidate to magically appear on their desktop for an interview, right? But it would be nice to be able to automate some of these processes. So if you can kind of think, strategically about the experience that you want people to have when they join a talent network, how much data do you want to gather up front? Do you send out, a follow-up email to engage further and get more information? Exactly how does that work? And then I think we mentioned earlier, to structure the opt-ins to allow the candidates to express interest, not just in the job they're applying for, if you're talking about applicants, but also in other roles that may open up. So that it just will allow you to be much more proactive. And I'd like to say another thing too that has absolutely nothing to do with Talent Network per se, but as you go through your process in the applicant tracking system, the data that comes out of there, if you have a fully integrated talent network, meaning people who apply for jobs are automatically synchronized into that talent network, you want to be very aware of the the data that you're capturing in the ATS as well. So, how far did somebody get in an application and selection process? Did somebody go through, final interview but didn't get the offer, somebody else got it? If you could be proactive in terms of identifying those silver medalists back in your talent network, then you can even ramp up your engagement to those even more highly qualified applicants as well.
Yeah, and it comes down to early adopters of talent networks or talent communities may have done so because they identified that they were not getting enough conversions on their applicant tracking system application process, and did not have the ability to much leeway to change that. That's a great reason for getting a talent network. But this other notion of being proactive and planning and building pipelines of specific areas of job needs for the future, if you didn't start out that way, it's not too late to really get more strategic with what you're doing there. All right. So what does your talent pool look like? Is it murky? Can you search from it? Can you find what you're looking for? Or is it crystal clear? So, Stephen, talk a little bit about searching and segmenting your talent.
Yeah, I think this is probably one of those cases where it really begs the need to be doing this probably outside of a solid ATS system. Because the searching is really what's important. When you talk to your recruiters, they're going to want to know, look, I don't care how much data I have in here. Do I have 100,000 people in here? Do I have 10 million people in here? If I can't accurately search for people and get the top of the haystack to be the top page or two, then my talent networks, it's just it's not going to be helpful to me, right? So you really want to have a system that's going to give you some advanced search techniques, that's going to give you the ability to rank those candidates, so that you can adequately segment, market, and organize them.
Okay, so quick poll. Let me just get the poll up here. How clear is your talent network for those of you that have them? Is it easy to search, segmented and searchable? Is it murky and hard to search? Recruiters don't really use it because it's difficult to get to people, or crystal clear. So give you a little bit of time here, and looks like we're slowing down a little bit more. Oh, we're still getting some engagement here. I want to keep going. So I'm going to close the poll here if you haven't voted now. So we've got 56% say somewhere in between crystal clear and murky. We've got 33% that say it's murky and hard to search. Recruiters don't typically use it. And 11% saying crystal clear. So kudos to the 11%. Good luck to everybody else who's in between. I know we're all working towards that. We all have our limitations that we're working with, but good information. So create community. Once you have that talent network, you want to create community in whichever way that you can. And there's lots of talk around this. And Stephen, I know you have thoughts about this. There's very grandiose ideas of what community is, and valid. And then there's sort of day to day kind of what kind of community can we implement. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think to stay on the practical side of this conversation, as excited as I get about people that are doing, real true community stuff, right? And these are folks that, we all read on the blogs and we see this stuff, but the reality is that is so far removed from what most of us can accomplish, that we shouldn't be looking at that and saying that's way too much, I can't do anything. What you want to do is at least get to a point where there is some communication going on between you and at least your targeted talent network, right? So I've got a client that's got over 10 million in their current database, and they're starting now to segment that and say, how can we build some relationships with some of these folks? We've been building this proprietary data pool for probably 7 or 8 years. Now how can we begin to create some relationships with them so that they are more oriented to responding to an invitation to join a talent network or an invitation to apply for a job, et cetera. So they're starting to send out some targeted messaging there. I think there's some simple things that can be done as well in terms of asking for some additional information, or confirming that they might still be interested in the organization, but asking them for some of those little yeses before there's actually an open job out there. So some drip marketing, and some very simple messaging helps to create a sense of community. Even if it's one way or limited two-way, right? Doesn't have to be a Facebook community type thing.
All right, and then be proprietary. When you're looking at your talent network, it should be an overall part of a strategy. You've got all these recruiting channels that you're using, and you really want to make use of that talent network as a proprietary thing, a living thing that grows and becomes more valuable as you use it. And the keys to that are using it. The keys to that are making it ubiquitous. All the things that we've talked about here. But again, backing up from tactical to strategic, talent network should sit at the middle of everything that you do, and be a source of great hires for you. So, Stephen, what do you have to say about that?
Well, I'm pretty sure that most of us on the call have been recruiters, if not now, at some point in our life, and we know how to log into all of the databases and social networks to find fresh data. But if we're doing that on an ongoing basis, then we don't really own any of that data. It's hard to maintain relationships with that data, and it is just that. I think I mentioned earlier, the phone call I got from a large recruiting organization earlier today, and I know exactly where that data came from, and it was the freshest data off of a third-party database. But how different would that be if if that data was continuing to grow in that company's proprietary database, so that they were able to do some of the things that we've been talking about before in terms of developing community, developing a positive brand experience, specifically with me and specifically branded from their proprietary database. So I'm not communicating through some other third-party social network or capturing emails that are coming out of a third-party database, but I'm really having a relationship with that community from a candidate perspective. And from a company perspective, if I strategically source all of the talent within within my footprint, and I capture all of that talent and bring it into my proprietary database, I've got a lot more control over the messaging that I can send out there, number one. And number two, over time, I become far less dependent on other more expensive sources for that data.
Yeah, and I bring it back to marketing again. As we continually hear the parallels between regular marketing and recruitment or recruitment marketing. As a marketer, everything to me is my lead database or my prospective customer database. I grow it, I measure it, I understand who's in it, I segment it. This is the lifeblood. One of my biggest KPIs is how I can grow my prospective lead database and engage that database, because the engaged part of it is the most valuable portion of it. So very similar with talent networks. So measure everything. Stephen, you have a lot of experience with metrics and working with companies in terms of understanding what it is they're doing. So I guess up front you got to be proactive and set up what are your key success metrics, right?
Yeah, I think absolutely, and I think we've included some things here on the slide that are probably relatively obvious, but I really want to know, is my talent pool growing, and is it growing appropriately, right? So have I organized my talent pool in such a way that I can see if I'm recruiting nurses or I'm recruiting ER doctors, that I can really see the growth of my talent pool against those requirements, right? Either regionally or by job category. Am I getting enough people to opt into the experience with me in those key categories? So I want to be able to see that data when I pull the reports. I want to know if my team is actually engaging with the talent community. So are they sending out emails? Are they referencing communications with the talent network, etc. So am I seeing that? And then is that actually resulting in conversion, whether it's from the greater talent pool into a specific talent network, or from a talent network onto a job? Am I seeing evidence of quality of candidates? So are my talent network candidates, do they reach late stages? And again, this has to do with whether or not you have the data coming back out of your applicant tracking system to let you know that your talent network folks are getting through to a second stage interview or to an offer, and that sort of thing. And then you want to be able to see the hire. So not just not just the applications, but can you see it again all the way through to hire? So these are some of the things that you want to be able to pull out of your CRM if you're able to, for your talent network success.
Great. All right, so that's our presentation. We have time for a few questions here. I just want to reiterate that you will be getting not only the slides emailed to you, but the solution snapshot that we talked about. I would invite you to, if you are interested in implementing or refining your talent network, it's one of the things that we do here at Talemetry. We work with your ATS to help you implement things like talent networks, like automated job distribution, CRM, the various components of recruitment marketing. So we'd be happy to talk to you. And when you're ready, please think of us. But Susanna, any questions?
Yes, we have one here. A couple of years ago, the data from Jobs to Web illustrated the importance of a job alert talent network. It was either the first or the second source of a hire for 169 enterprise customers. Are your customers enjoying the same type of success?
Stephen?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And the focus for I think the talent networks at this point is that because the communications are coming out in a much more pointed perspective, and a lot of our clients are still also using very simple job alerts coming out of their ATS, but with a CRM or talent network solution, they're able then to send more targeted information out, and it feels much more personal coming from the targeted emails. So absolutely.
Okay, we have one more. I like your point about data integration and don't double up. Do you have recommended platforms that partner well with Taleo?
Ian, I'll let you take that one.
Well, that was a little self-serving. I mean, I think, yeah, obviously, telemetry, we offer a solution, and we do integrate with Taleo and other applicant tracking systems as well. But there are other providers out there. I don't think I'm in a position to recommend them, but it's everybody from Career Builder to Smashfly to I believe Avature has one as well. But really, at the end of the day, you need to look at everything and make a determination for yourself. I can't recommend or de-recommend any of those based on whether they integrate with Taleo or not. But I'm curious with you, Stephen. What's your biggest pet peeve that you see out there with people implementing talent networks? What do you see being done incorrectly most often?
I think it's going to go back to some of the things that we've already said. So, number one, it's not obvious and easy to find. I actually had a client put together a whole, I can't even tell you how much money they spent on the career site, and I can't for the life of me find the talent network, right? So that's one. A second one is not using the talent network itself, proactively. So, again, I said that recruiters are looking for fresh data, relevant data. So what I find is a lot of recruiters are using our tools to go out and proactively source third-party databases, right? Rather than the data that they currently have in the system. And so that's another sort of pet peeve of mine, because there's a lot of, back when I started as a recruiter, we used to actually buy old data because, we wanted to, build that into something active. So as the database ages, you want to have a really proactive marketing effort to keep that data refreshed. Keep inviting people to come back and join the talent network again, so you've got that that refreshed data. And then again, I think my last pet peeve would be just messages that aren't relevant, particularly in a world today that that values real time and real social networking. Most of our large clients, just don't have the resource, the people resource, to be doing, real-time, social network recruiting in that case, two-way communication. So when you know that you're sort of limited by your resource capability in that point, then you want to make at least what you're doing from a communications perspective be relevant, right, and give an opportunity for response, even if that response is only through an email or an invitation, to fill out an online form. At least you want to create that relationship and the communication stream. So those are probably some of mine.
All right. Well, with that, we're right at the top of the hour. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We hope you found this beneficial and helpful. And again, feel free to reach out to us. We will reach out to you with some additional materials in the form of slides and our solution snapshot around talent networks. So, with that, for Stephen and for Susanna and I, have a great day, and we'll see you soon.